Okay, so for the analytical commentary, we're focusing on the exam paper basically. So this is, most people probably don't read it because they're in an exam and they're in a rush, but we're just going to pull it apart and really explore, as a result, what we know about the analytical commentary just from the way that the paper is set out. So you've got your instructions there. Of course, you're expected to demonstrate your ability to use the relevant descriptive and metalinguistic tools. That's, everything we ever do. You're looking for combinations of metalanguage. Demonstrate familiarity with the topic of the unit. Language variation and social purpose, language variation and identity. So of course, yeah, touching on the interlocutors or the writers or whoever it is, the people that have created the text, their identity and how that fits within the Australian sphere. Then of course, we've got the actual question itself, 30 marks, keep that in mind. So text 2 is usually what it's called. So let's break it apart. In your response, you should comment on the contextual factors affecting or surrounding the text. So you're going to talk about the cultural context and the situational context wherever you can, and keeping in mind the way those are different and how they interact with one another. You can do this, of course, in a separate paragraph of its own. Might be useful. I mean, you could just use this as a simple guide. These are my 3 paragraphs. Would be one useful way to approach it, but it sort of means that social purpose and register and contextual factors are perhaps not the juiciest things that kind of get you excited about writing around the language, whereas stylistic and discourse features perhaps are. So it's really up to you how you approach it, but you might even use this as a checklist during your exam and come back. Have I talked about contextual factors? Yes. Social purpose, register, stylistic and discourse features. Have you done those? Basically is what you're going to keep in mind. And of course, whatever format and structure you use, you're going to have to keep in mind. You're going to have to doing all of those 3 things, or 4 or 5 as they are. So for the second dot point, we've got social purpose and register. We know that there are 5 for formal text, 5 social purposes for formal texts. There are 4 for informal text. Of course, for an analytical commentary, this is sort of your jumping off point. You might even select more than one. That probably helps if you can be as confident as possible with whatever it is. So, the primary social purpose is this, the secondary social purpose is this. If you could really want to, go into overcomplicate things, you could probably even say the tertiary, meaning the third social purpose is this, but though that would be very rare because, of course, most people don't have multiple social purposes when they're trying to do, perform a text, speak, write, communicate, whatever they're trying to do, sign. So keep that in mind, but of course, these are your options. You should know these back to front. If you can't recite them off the top of your head, then that's something you'll definitely need to prepare for basically any analytical commentary you do. Register, of course, we've got those descriptors, but those are sort of, for a short answer question, those might be your responses, but for an analytical commentary, we're going to add modality, we're going to add adjectives, we're going to describe, frozen, I guess, is the only one that can't take an adjective. You can't say it's fully frozen or partially thawed. That just doesn't make sense, but you could say, very formal, extremely formal, moderately formal, consultative, again, sort of sits alone by itself. Very casual, is it a little bit casual? Is it very intimate? Is it intimate? Is it some other sort of adjective to describe those? So that's where you can sort of explore that, and you probably want a sentence that makes that distinction. Starts off simple, is it formal or informal? Where does it fit sort of on a continuum between those options, and then what descriptor fits best, and what parts of the text are that, and what parts are others. Then of course, this is as open as it can be, stylistic and discourse features of the text. So stylistic features includes everything, all the metalanguage, phonology, lexicology, morphology, semantics and syntax, and discourse on top of that, I guess, but focusing specifically as everything you're talking about is discourse, focusing especially on the stylistic features, which is all the things, all the metalanguage, all the features that you notice. Of course, you're looking for salient features, so you're not just trying to slip some phonology in if it doesn't fit. Of course, as it says down the bottom, 2 subsystems in your analysis, and you probably want to make sure that you're doing at least 2. You're looking for all of them preferably. Phonology is often tricky depending on the text, but your goal is to do as many as possible. So then discourse features, keeping in mind, splits into 2 parts. If you're looking at written text, cohesion and coherence. If you're looking at spoken discourse, you're thinking of all of the wonderful things that come with spoken discourse. So turn taking, politeness theory, positive and negative face needs. You're thinking about prosodic features, gesture, all of those things that come with spoken, of course, discourse features.